Good afternoon. We're going to run you through creating and drawing the rhomboid puzzle. I put a picture of that here. You should have in your Ag Tech kit a bag that has black poster board cut out of a puzzle. There's a hexagon frame and then all these pieces. I also put in here, just as a reminder, the way the polar coordinates work in Rhino because we're going to use that. Now I want to make sure that I have Rhino set up appropriately. So grid snap and ortho is going to be off for now. O snap we want on. An intersection, point, and end we want selected. And then gumball you can leave on or you can take off. That really doesn't matter for this assignment. Now I've got some layers set up. I've created a frame layer and left it as black. I created a pieces layer and left it as red. And then I created a grid layer. And I changed that to white from what was there before. I believe it was purple before. When we're doing guides or grids, we typically want those to be white. Some of our machines, like the laser, will not read white. It'll just ignore it. So kind of as a standard, that's something that we use. If it's a guideline, if it's a grid, we make it white. So the first thing that I'm going to do is draw the inside of this frame because that's going to be the most important part. I measured and I found that this side right here is 2.25 inches. So I'm going to start with the polyline tool and I'm going to go ahead and start at 0 just because I like starting at 0. And I'm going to go 2.25 and this time I'm going to go comma 0. What that's going to do is make sure that my line is straight on the x-axis to start with. That way I don't have things rotated funny. And then when I draw this part right here, I'm going to type in 2.25, hit enter, but now I need to use the less than sign, which if we hold shift and click on the comma button, it'll do less than, and then type in 60. Okay, and you see that snaps to 60 degrees because over here, that's that first angle that I want. And then we're going to go 2.25, enter, less than. This time it's going to be 120. So 120, enter, and it'll go up there. Next one's going to be 180 degrees, so 2.25, enter, less than 180, enter, and click. Next one's going to be 240 degrees, so 2.25 inches. Enter, less than 240, enter. We pull that down, and then we can just close our hexagon. Now I'm going to do an offset to draw the outer one. I measured across here, and it's 5/8 of an inch. We could put that in as 5/8, or we could put it in as 0.625. Either way will work. So I'm going to click on the frame that I have, type offset, go 0.625, enter. And then I'm going to drag it outward. By doing that, I've created this frame that we have right here. Now I'm going to switch to my grid layer. Okay? And the grid layer is white, so I make sure I put the check mark next to that. And what I'm going to do is create a grid in here that aligns with the sides of my hexagon. Okay? And I've measured these pieces, and I know that the shorter straight edges here are 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so we're going to create a grid so that we can more easily draw all our pieces based off the grid rather than having to punch in the angles for every piece that we do. So I'm going to start with the polyline and I'm just going to click and I'm going to do less than 60. Okay, so it aligns right there and I'm going to make it longer than it needs to be. Okay, we'll hit enter, and that's okay that it extends out here. As I move this across, I want to make sure that it goes all the way across there. So now what I'm going to do is highlight it, and I'm going to type array. I need to tell it how many in the x direction, which is side to side, and in this case it's going to be 6. It's going to be 1 in the y direction, so 1, enter. 1 in the z direction, 1, enter. The x spacing or first reference point. So we want them 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch across. Since I'm going negative on the x-axis, I'm going to type negative 0.75, hit enter, and you can see it gives us a preview of what that would look like. That's what we want right there, so we'll hit enter to accept it. Okay? So what the array command does is it allows us to copy multiple pieces at a specified distance, and it allows us to do that all at one time. Now I'm going to do the same thing based off of this one. If I remember my polar coordinate chart, it needs to be 120 degrees though. So polyline, we'll start down here, let's drag it up, do less than 120, enter, snap to that, hit enter to end my line, and then I'm going to do array again. So we'll copy that, we'll go type in array. We still want 6 in the x direction because they're going this way. So 6, enter, 1 in the y direction, so 1, enter, 1 in the z direction, 1, enter. The x spacing is going to be 0.75 because we want them to match up with each of these. Okay, so we're going to type in, this time it's going to be positive 0.75 though, because we're going to the right, and hit enter. And we just created the second part of our grid that goes across there. Okay, so these are at the proper angle to one another. Since that looks good, I'm going to hit enter, and it's okay that they extend up beyond here. That's not going to mess anything up for us. Now I need to do ones that go up and down. I could go and draw lines in that connect right here and connect these, but we're going to go ahead and use the array command, only it's going to be a slightly different one. So I'm going to grab that. This time I'm going to toggle ortho on and just drag it out here a ways. Click and hit enter to end it. I'm going to select that line that I just drew and type array linear. When I start typing array, that automatically pops up down here as an option. So I'll click on array linear. Since I had 6 on each of these others, we know we're going to need 6 items. So 6, enter. And first reference point is going to be right here. Okay, so we'll click there. Second reference point is going to be that next intersection, which is why we had OSNAP INT selected. So we'll click right there. And it just puts 6 items up so that we have this grid. Now, if this bothers us out here, we can highlight all that. We can type trim, and we can get rid of all this extra stuff that's outside of where we need. We do have a couple little sections there that we might have to get rid of. We don't have to get rid of these. Okay, it's not going to mess anything up. But if you're like me and having all that extra stuff there bothers you, you can fairly quickly get rid of it. And basically, once we're in trim, we just click on anything that we do not want. And we're almost there. We've got 2 over here. Okay, so now we hit enter. We're done trimming. And now we're left with our grid. And that's okay that these turned white. That's because we drew a line there over the top of the black line. So now, this is where, if you've already solved your puzzle, it makes it a little bit easier because you can figure out, okay, what pieces need to go where. I haven't figured this out yet, so we'll just draw one in there to show you. I'm going to switch to the pieces layer, so put the check mark up there. And let's go ahead and we'll just start drawing this piece in, and we'll draw it right here. So we can look and we can figure out, this is 2 units long there, and 2 units long there. So using the polyline tool, I can just click and use the intersections. Oh, let's turn ortho off. Sorry about that. I can use the intersections to figure out where my lines need to go. Okay, so there's the first piece, which is that one right there. And we can keep adding in pieces, drawing them individually until we get everything drawn. So I'm going to do polyline again. This time I'll go ahead and do this one. Make sure I'm in the red layer. I'll do this one, but I'm going to start right here. And by creating that grid, that allows us to more quickly draw our pieces. Okay, we can turn that off and we can see, okay, there's what I've already drawn. We're looking good so far. Okay, and then we can go ahead and we can draw the rest of them in wherever they belong using that same technique of just following the grid that we've made. When we're all done and have all our pieces, we can simply turn off the grid layer and we've got everything that we need right there. So then we can go ahead and save it. Make sure we use the proper naming system. So last name, underscore, first initial or first name, either way, and then underscore Rhomboid Puzzle. Hit save. Then we can go back to Canvas. We can find the Google Drive folder that we're supposed to upload it to, and we can upload it and mark it as done.